Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 79 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing. We highlight that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Join our Facebook group, Life Transformation Radio Community, and never miss an episode by subscribing wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, Himalaya app, the Google Play Music app, Pandora, and available on our YouTube channel, Life Transformation Radio. Subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, and then leave us a rating and review and let us know how we're doing. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, call us up at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Erin Wathen. Erin, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Thanks for having me.
I am super pumped to have you on the show, and I feel that it's timely because everybody's in the new year, new you. What are we going to do this year? How are we going to be different? And then at this moment in time, people have forgotten their New Year's resolutions. They've broken their New Year's resolutions. They're off their diet.
Of course.
They're miserable, right? I mean, usually, because you have Blue Monday, which is typically the third Monday of January, is Blue Monday because that's when people are most depressed. The holidays have worn off. People are putting away their Christmas decorations, and everything is kind of returning back to normal. The hype of 2020 is gone. Everybody's left to their device. I know people who have already filed for divorce this year. I'm not even joking. I know people who have already filed for divorce.
I know. I believe you.
So
yeah, I know a lot of people wait to the holidays. Yeah.
Right. I'm excited to have you on the show today because you give a very interesting perspective, and hopefully we can fix some of the lackluster results that people have gotten so far in 2020.
Well, I can't fix the divorces, so that's already, and I can't, unring that bell. But I think as far as when everyone goes on a diet, the first Monday after New Year's at a gym, and I taught group exercise for 12 years, had to be my least favorite day because it was always full of the resolution people, and God love them, but they just are there to get in the way, and then they go away after like a couple of weeks because they go from 0 to 60 in a week, right? They go from eating toffee and eggnog and hard like a rock star to fasting and taking 3 spin classes. Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, your body's like, what the heck are you doing to us? Mentally, it's too big of a shift too quickly. And psychologically, you're a mess because you're either on or you're off, and you don't really give yourself enough time to figure out, kind of like the Talking Heads song, how did I get here, right? Because if all we do is fix the food, we don't fix the cause of why you overeat. And obviously, like we could talk about portion sizes, USDA, blah, 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 but meaning the emotional reason, the why, the what's the problem in your life that you think Burger King is that answer, you will eventually go back to Burger King because the novelty of keto will run out, or the novelty of whatever's cool in your neighborhood that you're doing this year, because people have always been able to lose weight, right? Even, since the 60s or whenever, Weight Watchers or whatever people are doing, they've always been able to lose weight. It's the keeping it off that's the hard thing. It's the staying on the plan when life is not fair, because they're not going to stop making Ben and Jerry's. Life's not going to be fair. It's the only thing we can control, right? How we look at it, how we process it, and what we do about it. Because if we just sit around hoping that, one day we're not going to get parking tickets, so we're not going to be forced to eat ice cream, then we're just going to be stuck eating ice cream, right? Or so we tell ourselves. But if we can just accept that, like, if we can sit with a feeling we don't like, or at least observe the feeling to get all zen on you, and we're not going to implode from feeling uncomfortable for a while because something didn't happen ideally today. And the answer to the uncomfortable feeling is not in the fridge. I promise you, it's not in the pantry. And if we can just wrap our brain around that enough time, in addition to taking away the toxic, triggering food, then we can start. But just going on some crazy juice cleanse, overdoing it at the gym, you're going to be even worse off than you were in a month.
That's 100% spot on. I couldn't even said it better myself. And the whole time I'm trying to internalize that and what you're saying and picture that. And I have a joke that I tell people when I'm speaking about goals. And I say, Joel's Gym loves January 2nd to January 6th. They love it. Dunkin' Donuts loves January 7th to January 10th. Because that is normally how long it takes for people to go, yeah, this gym thing sucks. It's too hard. I'm out.
Totally. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I've had so many women and men where, we'll talk about the holidays, and they're like, I can't possibly lose weight. The holidays are coming up, and I'll say, it's September. The holidays are a frame of mind, and if you actually look at the holidays, I'm using air quotes, it's Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas Eve dinner, Christmas dinner, so assuming you're, a Christmas celebrator, New Year's Eve, that's 4 meals, right? Everything else is a mindset. Everything else is a way of life. Everything else is the cookies in the break room. And there are ways to get around it.
I got to disagree with you there.
About mindset?
I think that it's no, not the mindset. that it's only 4 meals. It's only 4 meals.
How many meals do you have?
I mean, you've
got parties.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you got Thanksgiving, which is awesome. Then you've got early morning. Then you've got early morning McDonald's because you're standing in line at Target at like 3:00 in the morning, right? The next day.
Oh wait, just go on Amazon. Next problem.
Yeah. Right. Right. Then you've got December 20th, which is probably, the last day of the week. I think this year was a Friday or something. But, that's your office Christmas party, so there's like a ton of food there. Then you've got the Saturday prior that you have to go to the in-laws.
Next problem.
And then Sunday, your church is going to do a bake sale. So your church, you have to eat all the cookies and stuff from the bake sale on Sunday, prior to. Then Monday, you have to prep all of your food, and you're eating your food along the way. On Tuesday, you have to go ahead and make sure, or a couple days prior, you got to bake all your pies. You have to bake all of your pies ahead of time, but then you have to eat a pie in between all of that because you might skip dinner. And then a couple days prior, there's a lot of...
So what is that, up to like 47 meals? Is that what you talked yourself into?
Yeah, I mean, we might have ate a pie or two leading up to the actual Christmas Eve dinner. Like the night before Christmas Eve, we might have been cooking some things and making sure that everything's good to go. We might have been eating some things there. And then we got all the eggnog that leads up to Christmas Eve. And then you've got all the leftovers after Christmas Eve and Christmas. You got a week's worth of leftovers that you're still eating. I mean, it's a lot of meals. I'm just hypothetically.
hypothetically, you're asking for a friend, right? With
asking for
with yeah, with no, with I think you gave a really good example of how someone might put themselves in a really bad spot because the every time there's a story about something you ate, there's a problem, right? If I asked you what you ate for dinner last night, you're probably thinking, huh? But if I asked someone that just binged, they would have a huge rationalization for why it wasn't their fault they ate an entire bucket of chicken, right? Because, and they would talk to me about what led up to it, what happened afterwards, how they're going to undo it. As soon as there are stories involving your church and your mother-in-law, and it would be rude if I didn't, you got problems. If you're eating, you move on, you're probably eating the right thing. But if you, at the end of the night, are laying in bed thinking, why did I have that fourth cookie? You're never thinking, why didn't I have the fifth, right? It's like that shot of tequila at 3 in the morning. You're never like, we should have another one. You never regret that. You never regret not overeating. You never regret not doing it because there will be more cookies. But once we go down that path of letting ourselves down, and then we start feeling bad, and once you start feeling bad, it's easier to let yourself down. And it's easier to just stay in our sweatpants, which is really just throwing in the towel, right? It just kind of builds on itself. So that's why I said, if you think of the holidays as 4 meals, I mean, maybe if you have a bunch of friends, 6 meals, but even if you think about it, when you go to a party, can you really socialize and eat at the same time? Not really. So if you eat a decent meal before you get to the party, you can engage more and you're not stressed out as much as between your friends and eating. It's just more of a mental thing as far as if you can shift away from what are they serving to who am I engaging with, because at the end of the holidays, you don't think so much about what did I eat, is who did I connect with, who did I have a good time with. You think about your family, your kids, whoever you're close with in your life, versus I'm so glad I had that second piece of pecan pie. Yay me. No, of course not. But your waistline could be like, why did she have the pie?
Yeah, I'm totally good at that because I don't eat pecan pie. You know what I mean? But my wife does make a mean. I mean, I'm talking like you really need some like mind over matter. She makes an amazing pumpkin pie cheesecake.
Well, that's the thing. If you're asking for a friend, and your wife does make, or your friend's wife does make a really good pumpkin cheesecake, then have a piece of pumpkin cheesecake when you're paying attention, when you're sitting down, when you have the right amount of hunger going on, and just leave it at that. But don't be standing in the fridge at 3 a.m. in your pajamas eating it. Like, that's not good. Like, that's not a cute picture. Because if you're, have it when you're cool with eating it. Have it with someone you want to be eating it with. But whenever you get in all weird mental places, food is well.
Yep, totally get it. And you bring up a good point. I mean, I could sit here all day and talk about how good this food is, and there's ham, or like, at a Polish family get together Christmas Eve, there might be hand-rolled, handmade pierogies, and there might be some kielbasa, and and these are, and a lot of people have family traditions, and they eat this thing and this thing, but at the end of the day, my lesson that I've learned with as many interviews as I've done, as many people as I've talked to, everything is fine in the food world in moderation, which is half the battle that people go through with overeating and food addiction and everything, like just in moderation.
Also, if you know yourself and you know that if you have one cookie, you're going to want them all, then maybe you shouldn't even go near the dessert table. Like, that's my only caveat to moderation. Is there are people that, and I know who you're talking, and I'm talking to you because I am one of them, that, in the same way some people can't just have a drink, some people do not respond well to sugar. And if you're one of those people, it's fine. You're not a bad person. You just don't respond well to sugar. So just stay away from it. And I think often, there are some foods that some of us don't respond well to. Like, I know people that cannot have a couple of chips. They will eat an entire bag of chips. I don't even like chips. I mean, I remember my kids were little. I would throw away those Dunkin' Donut munchkins because they would go stale. I don't like donuts. I know other people that's like sacrilegious because they love donuts. They don't do anything for me. But I know, right?
Yeah, I can't do that.
Everyone has their Achilles heel, and if you know yours is what's over there on the table, maybe you don't go near there. Just think, but be conscious, be aware, just be present, and also think about how do I want to feel in 2 weeks? How do I want to feel a month from now? How do I want to feel on the vacation? Because it all does add up. Like all those little choices that seem unrelated do matter in the end, and it's like the compound effect, right? So letting ourselves down or not being the person we want to be when it comes to our body, it might not seem like a big deal every so often, but after 6 weeks of the holidays, we can be feeling pretty yucky by January 2nd. And then, a sort of halfway measure for a week in beginning of January. And then, heck, it's playoff season. Here come the football parties, and we can't possibly not eat junk during the Super Bowl, right?
Oh, my gosh.
Anti-American.
That has to happen. That has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Trader Joe's
chocolate
today.
2 weeks later because it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and then it's Valentine's Day.
You
My wife's feelings will get hurt. No, she won't. She won't care. Just give her something. Give her a present, actually. And then,
right.
it's like, it's what? I mean, it's like, it's got to be someone's holiday. I mean, then you have like St. Patrick's Day, and then there's like Easter, and then isn't it like May Day, whatever that means? I mean, so you can talk yourself into
Cinco de Mayo.
Thank you, Cinco de Mayo. It'd be rude not to celebrate our neighbors, so you can talk yourself into just, because you don't want to do it. Because you really don't want to do it.
Absolutely. What I want to do right now is I want to dig into the bio, give people the links and everything so they can connect with you.
Sure.
So the title of this episode is How to End the Food Drama with Food Abuse Counselor Erin Wathen. She is a holistic health coach, food abuse counselor, and the inspiring author of Why Can't I Stick to My Diet? How to End the Food Drama. Her philosophy is simply put, health isn't a number on the scale or how often we exercise, but our lives as a whole. Several years ago, Erin was not at peace with her body despite her wealth of knowledge on diet and exercise. She was always on a diet and yet never reached her goal weight. As a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and a food addiction counselor, Erin was well versed in the science behind health. As a certified spinning instructor, vinyasa yoga instructor, and classical Pilates instructor, she understood the mechanics of health and fitness as well. Through a lot of trial and error, Erin found true nutrition to be the missing piece of the puzzle. It was then that she started her last diet, which ultimately became her food plan and the basis of her health coaching program, as well as her book, Why Can't I Stick to My Diet? The book is currently available online and at Amazon and in bookstores everywhere. Her website is Erin Wathen, WATHEN, Erin Wathen Wellness.com. LinkedIn, Facebook, right there in the show notes. Connect with her and send her a message letting her know that she was heard on Life Transformation Radio. My first question for you after our amazing conversation thus far and reading into exactly what it is you do, I got to know your why. Why do you do what you do?
Because I wanted to have someone like me when I was going through it, only I wasn't there because there wasn't like a Back to the Future DeLorean thing happening, right? So I couldn't have been there for myself, so I had to write a book because that's what I would have wanted, right? A nice shout out to the 80s. Because when I was figuring it all out, there wasn't anything that was user friendly. It was all these science guides with doctors, and they're showing you pictures of sugar and rats, and I wanted something that was easy to read, and accessible, and not too big, and not just just dancing around the subject, and also in the format in which I would just make it easy for people to understand. And at first it was on, it was just a Kindle edition because I know that people don't want to necessarily be seen on the subway or the airport reading a book like, why can't I stick to my diet? So, and I knew that after 50 Shades of Grey, that people will read things on an iPad or a Kindle they might not read.
Oh, yeah.
Normally, like, absolutely. So I knew that that would get a lot of momentum from, and I was thinking about myself, like as a stay-at-home mom, I do have a lot of reading time waiting for kids to be done with stuff. So that was who I was thinking of, who I was like, who was my avatar, right? What would she want to read? How could she read it? When would she read it? And that's who I was writing it for, was, me, what I would have needed, like how I would have needed it explained. And, why couldn't I stick to my diet? I was a nice person, I knew this, I knew the reasons. I said please and thank you. Like I worked out all the time. I actually worked for Weight Watchers at one point, but why couldn't I have the body I wanted to have? Well, the reason I couldn't have it was because all I did was eat sugar all the time. And the reason I ate sugar all the time was because I was unhappy with other things, and I didn't connect the dots of it all has to click together. You can't just fix half of it. But I didn't know that. No one ever talks about the yucky emotional stuff. They're just trying to sell you, shake mixes. So it's and keep in mind, I was in the industry. I taught group exercise. I worked for a big diet company. Like I should have figured it out, or somebody should have talked about it. But nobody talks about that stuff. Nobody talks about why people are overweight on an emotional level, because that's kind of yucky, right? I mean, so I basically wrote the book, and I have my business for what would have worked for me. So if that makes any sense to you. So like I said, Back to the Future style.
Yeah. No, I love it. Absolutely, absolutely amazing. So you kind of touched on it, I think. You kind of touched on it. The focus of the show is really about those transformative moments, that transformational moment that happens in our life, which is the spark or the catalyst or wherever it is. Like we kind of do a 180, or we kind of veer left or right or up or down or wherever, and we start finding our purpose. So I ask you, what was your transformational moment that happened which put you on the path to what you're doing today?
It was whenever I realized that if you substituted heroin or alcohol for sugar in my life, there would be no gray, right? But because it was sugar and I looked normal, it was fine. I had candy in the console of my car. I had candy next to my bed. I had candy everywhere. And if you caught me eating it, I would have been really pissed. So in a lot of ways, I was acting like a junkie or an addict or a drunk, but it was stuff you could buy at the store. And, my head would hurt, or my kids would irritate me, or I'd feel justified or whatever. And someone close to me was in a 12-step program, and I was doing all the Al-Anon reading and all the stuff you do when someone's going through that. And it just dawned on me once, like, if you just replace the words, there's absolutely no gray in this one. And that's what really made me look hard at it, because, like I said, like I wasn't quote unquote fat. I wasn't unacceptable. Like there's people that to this day are like, I read your book and I don't see what the problem was at the time. I mean, you liked candy, so what? And I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't normal in my head about it. I have a much calmer person when I'm not eating a ton of sugar. I like myself when I'm not eating high fructose corn syrup. I'm a better person when I'm not eating it. And I always say that now that I'm not obsessed with my weight, I weigh what I want to weigh. Now that I'm not obsessed with my body, it looks how I wanted it to look. So, I mean, who would have thought, right? But also, now that it's an effortless part of my life, I have so much extra bandwidth and time that I was able to write a book, that I was able to start a business, that I was able to help others, when just eating and not eating and obsessing and freaking out and talking about how fat I was to my friends, that took up so much flipping time, I can't even tell you, and took up so much of my mental ability. Like, it was just time consuming to always be worried, like, am I going to fit into that bikini by spring break? If not, I should starve myself until then. Like, it took up so much mental room that once I had that figured out, I was kind of bored, right? that was a hobby.
Right.
And that's what a lot of my clients in the beginning will say. They're like, it's all I think about. I'm like, well, you better get something else to do. Because once we clean this up, you're going to have to go learn a second language or something, because, it's going to free up some time.
Yeah. Well, in order to combat the diets, now that I remember, I don't know how many years ago, it seems like a while now, but there was like this whole movement about size is just a number.
I hate that.
Love yourself no matter what.
You're killing
yourself.
me. You're killing me.
I'm like,
you're killing
right?
me.
And the whole time I'm thinking
no.
like I totally get it. Like, love yourself, I get it, but come on, like it's still unhealthy.
This is like the whole like the Jillian Michaels thing, right? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Lizzo and Jillian Michaels, and people just freaked out on her.
Yep.
And this is my issue with, like, they call it body acceptance movement. And this is the thing.
Right.
Is what body acceptance is supposed to mean is, for example, I have green eyes. I will never have blue eyes. As much as I could complain and be mad at my parents and on and on and on, I will never, ever have blue eyes. That's just genetically not the cards I was dealt. So if I sat around being pissed off and angry that I didn't have the eye color I wanted, it would be so negative and, toxic, and it's just unnecessary angst, right? However, that has nothing to do with being obese. It has nothing to do with being more likely to die early. All right. So,
right.
There's three basic body types. We can talk about celebrities and what they look like, but we're all different shapes and sizes. Just genetically. Some people are tall, some people are short, whatever. But there's no medical reason, and there's nothing about self-love that you need to be 100 pounds overweight. It's just not true. You don't have to. Hating yourself is not going to make you a fit number. It's not going to make you a fit size. You can't hate yourself thin. And you shouldn't only love yourself if you're, got a rockin' body or whatever. However, being super overweight, you're not going to convince me is comfortable. You're not going to convince me it's healthy. You're also not going to convince me that you didn't get there through pain. You're just not. I'm sorry. Because when people aren't in a good place, it always shows up in their food or their drinking or their spending or whatever. And, if you get to be 100 pounds overweight, that's just a number, just as nice and round, it's because you made the wrong choice day after day, week after week. So you can't just maintain that if you didn't keep it up. So, sure, love yourself, even though you're not, the body you wish you had. Love the body you have, but don't give yourself diseases that are avoidable. A lot of us have genetic propensities already, but we might not get it if we live a healthy lifestyle. Have you ever done that 23andMe thing? A lot of people have things that they don't actually have active because they live a healthy life. Well, what if you were able to make all those things stay away if you didn't eat nothing but processed food? Would it be worth it to you? I would hope so, but it isn't body acceptance and self-love to invite type 2 diabetes. It just isn't. It just isn't. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
And it's fine to not want to be, as skinny as a celebrity or as skinny as, a supermodel or whatever. But that does not mean you can't fit in a normal, healthy weight range. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Did you ever see Super Size Me?
Absolutely.
That completely turned around everything I thought about fast food. And my family, my wife and kids, we refuse to eat fast food. But the kids are like, well, I just want to go to McDonald's. And I'm like, no, it's not good for you. It's not healthy for you, whatever. So if we do go, because they are incessantly like, well, I just want to eat whatever. It's like, fine, you get chicken nuggets. And then I'm going to ask for fruit inside of your inside of your Happy Meal. They're like, oh my God. I'm like, no, no, no. If you're going to eat McDonald's, you're eating it my way. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not getting any of this other stuff. You're not getting any of this stuff, whatever. I said, but you're also, eat like a breakfast burrito. Like we're gonna eat something that resembles actual food. Now, like
Yeah.
with the guy, man, and if you, for the listeners, if you've never seen Super Size Me, oh my gosh, this guy eats nothing but McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and he eats everything on the menu.
Yeah.
On this day he eats this burger, then he eats a salad, then he has a shake, then he has whatever, and in like 20 days, and this guy's like a healthy, he's like a bodybuilder. I think he's a bodybuilder, or at least
In the beginning, he was fine.
Pretty buff.
Yeah.
Pretty buff. He's a gym rat. He's pretty buff. And in 14 days, he puts on like a bunch of fat. In 22 days, something like that, he had a doctor check him. They're like, man, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, this is bad for you. Again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, this is all this guy's eating. By the 26th day, I remember this, by the 26th day, he was so unhealthy. They were like, you're going to stop or your heart's going to stop. And on the 28th day, he didn't even make it 30 days. 2 days later, he went into the hospital and he was having chest palpitations, whatever. He was having like chest tightness or whatever. He felt he was having a heart attack. Literally felt like he was having a heart attack. And he had gained a lot of weight. He didn't even make it 30 days.
Yeah,
and then it was like crazy.
It was
He was
crazy.
having so many health issues by the end of the 30-day period. He could barely make it 30 days, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time, and he gained a lot of weight.
He gained a lot of weight that took him a long time to get rid of. Like, I don't know if you've ever followed up with him, but whenever they talk about what happened afterwards, it took him, I want to say, like maybe close to a year to feel good again, because first of all, he gained it. It's like such a freakishly fast weight, even though his calories weren't out of control. I mean, he wasn't gorging himself. He was eating like probably the same amount calorically. It's what he was eating, the quality of the food, and also
the burger,
how
fries,
depressed
and
he
a
was.
drink. Yep. Burger, fries, drink every single. Yep, it was bad. Ugh.
Actually impacted.
He what?
Time.
Say that again?
Still felt that much. Oftentimes when people are having a hard time, like with mental health or whatever it's going on, getting off of those sort of foods is a really good idea. The process really bring down. So the healthier we are, and also just if you want to talk like woo-woo kind of stuff, the more connected we are to our food, meaning like you cook it yourself, you only, try to go to places that don't completely, make their workers feel horrible, so if you try to have some sort of integrity with all that versus, McDonald's, which is like, just killing the rainforest or whatever, then you're more likely to have a much better experience, because if you think about it, the food comes into your body and it literally becomes your body. It becomes your cells and becomes your, your thoughts and all this other stuff. So if you do nothing but just completely overload your body with just carcinogens for 28 days in his case, no wonder he was such a bad mood. No wonder he was very nice. It's a lot. It was like a snake with a rat, and it's he just did that to himself. So yeah, I'm not surprised he was in the hospital. Yeah, but people eat that way all the time.
Yep, and then the best part is that they'll go to McDonald's, or usually it's McDonald's. They go to McDonald's or Burger King or whatever, and they get like, let me get the big burger, let me get the large or the supersized fry, and Diet Coke, because got to keep my figure. Like, I don't think that's how it works. Just because you drink a Diet Coke.
I know, and the Diet.
And the Diet Coke, right?
Yeah, that always seems to.
Yeah. What I want to do. So what should we do? So my family, we meal plan. Our family meal plans we set out on Sunday. And we say, this is what we're going to eat, and this is what we're going to do. And whether it be the, so like Monday, maybe we'll do steak. And then Tuesday, maybe we'll do chicken meal. I don't know, chicken Alfredo, or I don't know, whatever we're going to do. Or maybe we'll do kebabs. Like we did kebabs this past week. We did kebabs. And what happened with the kebabs was, everything was, peppers and onions. Everything's fresh. Everything is absolutely fresh. And cook it on the grill, and then we're good to go. And so one of the other things that we do is sometimes we prep, like we'll meal prep. And so once we meal prep, absolutely we do that every single time. We meal prep. So whether it's we're doing tacos on Tuesday, like steak tacos, we're gonna do. Let's see, what was our meal this past week? So we did kebabs on Monday. We did steak tacos on. We did tacos on Tuesday, steak tacos, and then we did Wednesday. I think was like chicken and rice. And then we did steak on Thursday, and then we did a big chicken meal on Friday, and then on Saturday we did another meat. So I think we did like beef. We did beef tips or some kind of beef. So we do eat the steak, quite a bit more, but then we kind of even it out with some chicken. But what we don't eat is pork. We never eat pork, and there's a lot of religious reasons why people don't eat pork, but literally there's no nutritional value. There's literally no nutritional value. There is, from what I found, no nutritional value in corn either. So we don't eat a lot of corn in the can, and we don't eat a lot of. We do eat a little bit of corn on the cob, but no corn, pork. So we just don't eat pork, but like we meal prep everything. We meal prep everything. So Erin, I gotta ask you after I said all that, meal prepping and meal planning and everything else, I feel happier. My body, literally after, I think it's been here's an example. 2 years ago, we had Hamburger Helper almost every single night, box noodles. I'm talking like the box noodles with the packets, and like, bagged dinners, like bag of, like you just pour it into the sauce, into the frying pan or whatever, and it's like chicken ranch, like, it's like bagged dinners. You're not like Stofers, that's at least on a decent scale, but these bagged dinners, a friend of ours made Hamburger Helper late last year. It's been about 2 years, and I was like, what is this? She goes, beef stroganoff. I was like, oh, okay. It's been a while since we ate beef stroganoff. My whole family, our whole kids, everything was like, what the hell is this? This is disgusting. How is it? Like, they did not want to eat it. I'm like, this is gross. I asked her, I was like, this is Hamburger Helper, right? Like, oh, yeah. We always eat Hamburger Helper, whatever. And the kids were like, nah. You could literally taste the difference. It didn't taste good.
No, I'm sure, because all you tasted was how over salted it was. Everything how you tasted rubbery, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, because your taste buds have acclimated, and you don't want that extreme salt, the extreme over the top like ickiness that it is. But if you think about it, like when we're kids, or whenever we're first introduced to these foods, and especially like if you think of when you're in college or when you're in your 20s or whatever, and there's a long period of time where you eat badly, it's really easy to keep eating badly. And then when you have something not as extreme, you get the hot sauce, you get the ranch. I mean, you make it bad, right?
Yep.
So,
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, I eat healthy all the time. I eat carrots and I eat celery, and then I eat a ton of the dipping that comes with it. Because, I mean, you have to have celery and dip and carrots and dip and cucumbers and dip. I mean, that's kind of a, it's like peanut butter and jelly. I mean,
Totally. Right. No, I'm saying, but I think the thing is like whenever we clean all that stuff up, you need to be aware like your body is so happy, it immediately starts repairing, it immediately starts, recalibrating your taste buds and recalibrating,
Yep.
where things should have always been, because it's almost like we've just beaten it into submission through eating horribly, not getting enough sleep, through, being on screens too much, all these really unhealthy things that we've just made our body do, right? If you look at, like, say, like a 2-year-old, they don't have any food issues unless you make them. They don't finish their food because they don't want to, because they'd rather play. A 14-year-old, not so much. I mean, 24-year-olds don't even talk about it. But when kids are little, and then there's always the parents at a clean plate club and all these other crazy things we do to kids. But
oh yeah, I don't do that.
Me neither. But I'm
if
saying,
my kid's full, my kid's full.
Well, but I'm saying, how do you know when you're hungry or when you're full when someone else tells you? You don't. But it's kind of like one of those basic things where, like, if you don't know what's going on in your own body, how are you going to know what's going on in your own head when you're older and you may or may not want to decide something else? Like, that's kind of one of the first major decisions when you're a kid is like, am I hungry or do I have to pee? So if we don't let kids decide the small things, like what color shirt do you want to wear, then when they're older, like, how do they know their own judgment? But I think, too, with food and families, it can be really easy to get into just a rut, especially when everyone's busy and everyone's in a bad mood and it's a crazy work night like it is tonight. That's why meal prep and planning ahead is crucial. But also, don't get complicated. So Tuesday or tacos, fine, whatever. Watch the Lego movie. It's a joke. Easy. Next night. Like, maybe, like, I'm a big rotisserie chicken person because, 24/7, 365, like, it always works. I'm also a big have a 10 items or less mental list in your brain so you can go through that easy pass lane in your grocery store and get seasonal things that you can do stuff with all year round. You should not be eating the same way January as you do in June. But not making it complicated is key, or else you're going to end up calling in Uber or whatever, Uber Eats people. So I think especially when you have a family, and especially if you've ever paid any attention to, like, I don't know, your credit card bill or your weight or your mood or any of those things, if you continue to eat junk, you will feel horrible. It's just a fact. And you will also go broke. You will also, like, a lot of other things that none of us want. But it's so easy to do because we think all those decisions that seem really small don't matter, but they do. There's something like an extra cookie every day for a year is, I think it's like 12 pounds. 12 pounds is a lot on a woman. It's a good dress size. And, that's also not as much on a guy, but if you do that every year, 10 years in a row, it can get crazy. But I think, too, if we make small changes in the opposite direction and are more mindful, maybe we add a little more broccoli and not have as much, meat, for example, or, kind of pull back on the amount of creamer or whatever we do. Just be more mindful about what we put in our body, because it does impact so many things. And we do have so much control that when we look at it from another perspective, because a lot of people are like, well, I had no choice, and, my mom made me mad, and it's what they were serving, and I'm Italian, and, what are you going to do? And it's the holidays, and I was in a bad mood, and it's my time of the month, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no one took a gun to your head and made you eat that. They say that you should go to talk to the police.
Right.
But most of the time, you're choosing to have a bad decision, and now you're giving me a story that I don't believe. And the more you talk about it, the less I believe it. So please stop talking. But we always have a choice, and I think it's okay if you chose poorly as long as you learn from it, because it's never a mistake unless you just don't analyze it and say, what could I have done differently? What am I going to do next time? Because like I said earlier, life's never going to be just all of a sudden magical with rainbows and sunshine because I decided I like that better. No, life is still going to be life, and they're still going to have junk food in this world. But the only thing we can do anything about is our perspective about it. So let's not have the food in the house, and let's also get our head on straight about what food is supposed to be in our life. It's not supposed to be a reward or a present or our friend. It's just supposed to fuel us. That's all it's really supposed to do.
Right. So if someone wants to connect with you, or someone has an issue right now, they're like, oh my gosh, I need Erin in my life because I have this issue, this problem, or whatever. How do they work with you? How do they connect with you? How do you elevate the world around you?
I have a lot of content on my website. I have a lot of content on, Instagram, tons and tons of videos. I mean, you can get, basically everything I've said to you, only explained a lot more concise with not as much slang on my website, on Instagram with pretty pictures. You can get a hold of me on, my website's a really good place to do it, or Facebook, any of the usual channels always works.
Sure. Perfect. So we want to do a takeaway. We always close the show with a takeaway. So if they don't listen to anything that we've talked about today, the listeners, what is the one takeaway that you want the listeners to know and understand about our conversation today?
You really know how to put somebody on the spot, don't you? I would definitely say for the listeners. We ask the hard
questions on this show.
I know, right? This is like not, it's not your mama's radio show. I would definitely say to just really think about how important food is to them, and do they want to maybe bring it down a little bit on the priority list and elevate their relationships? Because if you think about it in that way, it's a lot easier to make healthier choices.
Love it. Erin, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your vulnerability in sharing everything that you shared today. And this is a very timely episode, and I just wish you the best for your 2020.
Thank you so much. It was so fun talking to you.
Thank you so much. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around her. If anything resonated with our conversation today here on Life Transformation Radio, please connect with Erin Wathen. Go to Erin Wathen, WATHEN, Erin Wathen, wellness.com. LinkedIn, Facebook links are right there in the show notes. Connect with her. Send her a message. Let her know that you heard the episode of her on Life Transformation Radio. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. We're available anywhere podcasts can be heard. And with that, I close the show by saying live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.